Today, we're jumping right into the aftermath of the 2025 NBA Draft's first round. Just finished, hot off the press, really.
Yeah, still processing some of it, actually. It followed the final so quickly.
Exactly. And our goal here is to cut through the noise, you know? We've pulled together insights from SB Nation, Yahoo, CBS Sports, ESPN, The Athletic, basically all the big names.
We're going to try and give you the key takeaways, the big moves, the head scratchers, maybe spot some future stars.
Because this wasn't your standard predictable draft night, was it? Especially after the top couple of picks.
Not at all. The first round in Brooklyn, I mean, it had everything. Some obvious picks, sure, but then a lot of surprises, trades flying around.
Yeah.
It really sets up an interesting second round, too.
So let's try and make sense of it all. What's the big picture here?
Well, it's interesting how teams handled this draft class. There was that talk beforehand, about it maybe being a down year talent-wise.
Right, I heard that too.
Well, the first round kind of showed this split, didn't it? You had these absolute sure things right at the top.
Yeah.
And then after that, wow, a real mix of teams taking big swings on upside, guys who are maybe projects, and others going for more strategic fits. It really showed different team-building philosophies in action.
That's a great way to put it. Okay, so let's start with those sure things. Pick number 1, Cooper Flagg to the Dallas Mavericks.
Yep.
This was, almost universally an A or A+.
Yeah.
Everyone calling it a no-brainer. Some even said the safest number 1 pick in ages. That's pretty strong language.
It really is. And Flagg, well, he's kind of special. Elite two-way prospect, maybe the best offensive and defensive player in the whole class.
A do-it-all forward, right.
Exactly. And the production he had at such a young age. I mean, he was 17 for half his college season.
Wow, 17. Youngest player in the league now then.
Yep. And yet everyone expects him to be an instant contributor. He's got the frame, the skills for playing on the ball, off the ball. Mm-hmm. The athleticism is there for both ends.
And that mentality piece seems huge too. Everyone mentions the elite mentality, how he plays harder than anyone else.
That motor is definitely a separator. For Dallas, especially after that shocking Luka Doncic trade earlier.
Yeah, still reeling from that one.
This is more than just a good pick. It's like you said, a great way to reset. People are already calling him the future face of the franchise.
MVP upside, all NBA potential. They're throwing it all out there. And comparing his safety, quote unquote, to Zion Williamson is interesting.
It is. It suggests they see him as less of an injury risk, maybe. But yeah, for the Mavs, this feels like a foundational piece they desperately needed.
A cornerstone, absolutely. Okay, so following that, pick 2, the San Antonio Spurs take Dylan Harper.
Another pick that just feels right, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The fit next to Victor Wembanyama, described everywhere as perfect.
The idea being this inside-out tandem they can build around for, the next 15 years?
That's the dream scenario, yeah. And Harper, he's a big guard. Like 6'6" sections with nearly a 6'10" wingspan.
Gets downhill really well, I read.
Oh, yeah. Apparently converts 70% of his rim attempts. 70. That's just elite finishing for a guard, especially going against size.
So mostly a scorer then, but with some playmaking ability.
Yeah, solid playmaking vision is how it's often put. He should be able to guard multiple spots, too. The thinking is, he collapses the defense, draws guys in, and that just makes life easier for Wemby.
Okay, but here's the potential issue, right? The shooting.
Yeah, that's the big question mark.
Under 37% on catch and shoot threes, under 29% on pull-up jumpers. That's not great in today's league.
It's really not. And when you think about the Spurs already having guys like Stephon Castle, De'Aaron Fox, who are also more interior focused.
How does that spacing work? Are they just betting big on his upside, hoping that all-star, maybe even all-NBA ceiling comes through and the shot develops later?
I think that has to be it. It's a calculated risk. Those shooting numbers, you can't ignore them. It forces their hand a bit. Do they bank on development, which is never guaranteed? Or do they have to tweak their whole offense around Wemby to make it work? It's definitely a gamble on that massive potential.
A fascinating one. Okay, let's shift gears to some of those picks that raised more eyebrows. The surprises, the big swings. Con Knuppel to the Charlotte Hornets at 4.
Right. Elite shooter. That's the headline. Over 40% from 3, 91% from the free throw line at Duke. Impressive numbers.
He was Flagg's Robin, but apparently stepped up when Flagg was out, showed he could be the main guy.
Yeah, he did. And his game's pretty well rounded beyond shooting. Strong, good footwork, solid passer, can score off the drive. Some called him a perfect connector type for an offense, fitting between LaMelo Ball and Brendan Miller.
And there's that family legacy angle too, both parents being college scoring legends.
Pretty cool story. The worries, though,
Yeah.
Mainly about the athleticism. Average mix of length and explosiveness, and defensively, those slow feet next to Ball and Miller could be a real issue.
Yeah, that backcourt defense might be leaky. Now, maybe the biggest surprise in the top 5, for me anyway, Ace Bailey falling to Utah at 5.
Yeah, that was puzzling. He was seen as a top 3 guy for so long.
And the reports about him declining workouts, even with Utah, and being surprised they picked him, what's going on there?
It's definitely unusual. But look, the talent is undeniable. Even with the fall and the questions, analysts still see significant upside. Some still think he could be the second best player in this whole draft.
A ridiculous shot-making machine was one quote I saw. A lot of swagger.
For sure. But the raw edges are just as apparent. Shot creation needs work. Defense needs a lot of work. Relied heavily on mid-range shots and wasn't even that efficient with them, hitting just over 36% of pull-up twos.
Oof, not ideal.
No. So he's definitely a project. Needs time, needs coaching, needs to get stronger. Utah took a massive swing on that upside, maybe overlooking some of the pre-draft stuff and the immediate fit questions. High risk, high reward.
Definitely feels like it. And speaking of head scratchers, let's talk Yang Hansen. Portland trades up, gets him at 16 from Memphis.
Yeah, this one was universally called the biggest shock, the biggest head scratcher. Most teams had pegged second round, maybe draft and stash.
So why did Portland jump? He's a massive 7-footer from China.
Right. Soars with old school craft, good passer, rebounds well. But the concerns are pretty major for the modern NBA.
Let me guess. Athleticism and shooting.
Bingo. Slow feet and lack of shooting range. He's not an explosive athlete by NBA standards, maybe not even average. And he's not seen as being stronger than NBA bigs either. Mostly scored in the post in China, which,
Doesn't really fly anymore.
not as your primary offense, no.
Yeah.
And they just drafted Klingon last year, another 7-footer. Portland says it was best player available, and they plan to develop him right away. But it's a really curious pick, a very big bet on development.
Raises questions about their front court direction for sure. Okay, let's move to some defensive guys and developmental bigs. Colin Murray-Boyles to the Raptors at 9.
Yeah, hailed as possibly the best defensive player in this draft. Good driver too, apparently, and great passing vision. Uses his length well, strong player despite being maybe a bit undersized height-wise for a big.
6'6.5" barefoot, yeah.
But his mentality, his defense that fits Toronto's identity, right? They love length and
Well,
versatility.
there's always a but.
Always. The shooting. Not a good shooter yet. And for a Raptors team that already struggles with spacing, that's a concern. They're doubling down on defense, maybe hoping the offense comes later.
Seems like it. Then you have the Suns getting Kaman Malulak at 10, trading up with Houston. Phoenix badly needed a center, and he fell right to them. Some had him top 3.
An incredible gift is what some called it. And this guy's story is wild. Only been playing basketball for 5 years.
5 years. Wow.
Yeah. Already a towering rim protector, but also has switchable mobility. So he can guard out on the perimeter a bit too. Huge lob threat. Super mobile for his size.
But raw offensively.
Very raw. Work in progress, is putting it mildly. Needs seasoning as a screener, shooter, creator. His whole ceiling really hinges on developing that shot and proving he can defend on the perimeter consistently.
But the potential fit with Devin Booker in the pick and roll.
Oh yeah, that could be special down the line. Excellent pick for Phoenix's needs, even with the rawness.
Okay, and OKC at 15 gets Thomas Sorber. Sounds like an interesting blend. Super long and super strong center, sets hard screens, rebounds, protects the rim. Kind of old school.
Right, 7'6" wingspan, over 260 pounds. But the analysis says his game is remarkably productive and very modern in its construction.
How so?
He excels at, like keeping plays alive for guards, good passer on the move, keeps advantages going. It's not just park him in the paint stuff.
And there was that crazy stat comparison.
Oh yeah, the Chris Webber comp. One analyst pointed out he and Webber were the only high major freshmen or sophomores ever to average at least 14 points, 8 boards, 2 assists, 2 blocks, and 1.5 steals.
That's serious company. Suggests a really versatile impact.
Exactly. He feels like an awesome fit for OKC, especially with their roster getting expensive soon. He could eventually replace Hartenstein as a cheaper, maybe even better long-term backup. Some think he was the best overall big in the draft.
Yeah, a potential long-term solution there. All right, let's look at some perceived value picks later in the round. Miami Heat grab Kasparas Jakučionis at 20.
Yeah, this was seen as a potential steal. He was projected way higher, like top 5 even, earlier in the process. So him falling to 20 was a bit of a surprise.
Why did he drop? And why is he still a good fit for Miami?
Well, the strengths are clear. Strong frame, creative passer, potential as a pull-up shooter, gets to the line, good basketball IQ, a true floor general type. Should fit well with Bam Adebayo and Kello Ware with his feel for the game.
But the drop.
Turnover issues in the Big Ten, apparently a rough season overall. Described as a poor run and jump athlete, struggled with his three-point shot. There was a shoulder injury that might have messed with his shooting mechanics.
Oh, okay.
But, it's the Heat culture. They have a track record of developing guys like this. He fits their culture and toughness vibe perfectly. They probably think they can fix the shot and get value there.
Makes sense for them. Then the Kings at 24, trading with OKC, get Neat Clifford.
Sounds like a really solid do-everything kind of player. Not flashy, maybe no single elite skill, but just solid. Started defense first, added shooting and playmaking over 5 years in college.
That improvement track and mentality were highlighted. A tough-as-nails wing.
Yeah, seems like a ready-made role player. A plug-and-play option for Sacramento. Could defend multiple spots, score a bit from everywhere. Just a sensible, high-floor kind of pick.
And Orlando at 25 gets Jace Richardson. This felt like a perfect fit on paper.
Totally. Orlando was the worst shooting team in the NBA. Richardson is one of the better shooters available there.
Plus the NBA bloodlines, son of Jason Richardson.
Yep. Skilled combo guard, lethal mid-range game, really poised pick-and-roll feel. Looks like he downloaded his dad's NBA experience, as one analyst put it. Reads the game really well for a young player.
But there are concerns. Size, injury.
Yeah, lack of size is one thing.
Yeah.
And that injury history, that hole in his femur, sounds kind of scary. His smaller stature might limit his ultimate ceiling.
Okay, a couple more interesting ones. Noah Asangwe to the Bulls at 12. Another upside swing.
Definitely. Super young, super athletic, productive in Germany, great in transition, rim runner, needs muscle, needs to work on the shot. The Giannis comp was interesting.
Yeah, what was that about? Future MVP talk.
Probably not. It was more about the raw athleticism, the long strides, the scoop layups when attacking the rim. Think raw potential, not necessarily future superstar.
Gotcha. And the Clippers at 30 take Yannick Conan Niederhauser. Combined standout.
Big time. Apparently opened eyes with his athletic testing. Elite athlete, plays above the rim, finishes lobs, blocks shots, has the size.
It needs polish.
Lots of polish. Fundamentals. Offensive game needs rounding out. But he could potentially earn backup center minutes pretty quickly just based on that athleticism and size.
Okay, now we have to talk about the Pelicans. Trading up 10 spots for Derek Queen at 13, giving up that unprotected 2026 first. The better of theirs or Milwaukee's?
Oof. Yeah, that was called one of the night's most questionable moves. A confusing amount of risk.
So why do it? What's the appeal of Queen that warrants that kind of price?
Well, the skill level is immense. He's called the most skilled center in this draft. Maybe the best hands. Big guy, but handles like a guard sometimes. Spin moves, crafty finishes. Really unique offensive package.
Okay, that sounds good. What's the downside?
Conditioning is a question mark. Needs to develop a jumper. But the biggest thing, the fit.
With Zion. And now Jordan Poole and Jeremiah Fears too.
Exactly. None of them are really shooters. Queen isn't either. How does that work offensively? The spacing could be problematic, as one source put it.
Yeah, that sounds tough in today's NBA. Defenses would just pack the paint.
It could really limit their ceiling. So it's a massive gamble on talent, but one that could seriously mess with their offensive ecosystem if the fit doesn't work or the shooting never comes. High stakes.
Wow. Okay, and finally, the Brooklyn Nets. What was going on there? 5 first-round picks?
Yeah, right. Igor Demin at 8, Nolan Trieri at 19, Drake Powell at 22, Ben Suruf at 26, Danny Wolf at 27. Kept and used them all. A record.
So what's the strategy? Just throw darts and hope some hit.
That's basically the numbers game theory people are floating. For a rebuilding team, maybe it makes sense. Draft a bunch of players, hope a couple of them work out.
They seem to go for projects too, right? Young guys, international guys.
Yeah, definitely leaned heavily in the project direction.
Yeah.
2 one-and-dones, 2 teenage international guys. The theme, especially with the guards they took, seems to be positional size and passing ability.
But shooting struggles seem common too.
Yeah, that's the catch. A lot of them aren't great shooters yet. The Nets seem committed to how Coach Jordi Fernandez wants to play, and maybe they just really believe in their player development program, specifically that they can develop shooters.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
It's definitely unique. A long-term bet on quantity and potential over maybe one higher floor guy. We'll see how it shakes out.
So wrapping this all up, this draft really highlighted that split, didn't it? You had the clear ready now guys at the very top, Flagg, maybe Harper, and then this huge tier of players with high ceilings but also significant question marks, raw prospects needing a lot of development. As you look back on it, what do you think is more valuable for teams building long term?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Do you take the safer guy, the NBA-ready player who might top out as a solid starter or a good role player? Or do you swing for the fences on the project who has superstar potential but might never reach it?
Especially when reaching that potential hinges on developing one key skill, like your reliable jump shot or consistent defense. How much risk is too much risk there?
It's fascinating to see the different approaches and these decisions. I mean, they're going to shape these franchises for years. It'll be really interesting to track these guys.